Back with the WMAY morning news feed. I'm Greg Bishop at this 6:38 time check on the WMAY morning news feed. As you can see in the video, I've got my nails painted pink. I was able to raise so far more than $5,500 for Real Men Wear Pink to raise awareness about breast cancer for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we keep going. We're going to continue to raise money. I don't know yet what my goal is if we get to $7,500, but I'm just, listen, Megan and I are just beside ourselves with gratitude of so many people who've turned out to help raise funds for the American Cancer Society. And I just want to, again, reiterate the importance of early detection. But you can see my nails are painted pink. So, yeah, Real Men Wear Pink, and sometimes they wear pink nails as well. So go to WMAY.com/pink for more details on how you can help us raise more money for the American Cancer Society this Breast Cancer Awareness Month. State legislature coming back to Springfield today, tomorrow, Thursday, and then next week for 3 days as well. We talked with State Representative Tim Butler yesterday on the Republican side. Today we talk with State Representative LaShawn Ford on the Democrat side. What do you expect to take place here? Thanks for taking part in the conversation, Representative. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Bishop, and thank you for being fair and balanced, getting a Democrat and a Republican.
I want to hear from all voices, especially with the landscape that we have in Illinois. So I appreciate you being willing to join us on air to talk about these issues.
Yeah, I think we're going to see that the governor is going to be pushing his agenda to make sure that he does what he believes will make Illinois healthier and safer across the state. We're going to see some parental notification possibly being pushed. We're going to see some protection for women's health, and we're going to see some voter legislation for prison inmates. And we're going to see more budget negotiations and appropriations for federal funds that came down. And we will continue to do what we believe should be taking priority right now in the state. Democrats and Republicans.
You've got the congressional maps as well. Are there expectations that there could be more changes before a final vote on that? And is that something that's going to come early in this process, or do you think it'll be kind of late in the veto session?
You know, I would say that the map making process that for the congressional map could come later than we expected before, because listening to all interested parties and people with opinions, that means the voters and the organizations that have input in map making, I do believe that there could be changes because the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate, they're working closely with community-based organizations to get it right.
We're talking with State Representative LaShawn Ford, and we'll touch on some of the things happening in Chicago, get your reaction to here in a bit, but still focusing on the state legislature. One thing that you raised that I wasn't sure was going to be an issue was some changes to the election laws. Talk a bit more about what could be the aim of allowing for prison inmates the ability to cast ballots.
You know, there has been a major push across the nation to end voter suppression. And we believe at this time there should be no voter suppression for any American citizen in this country. In Illinois, we're going to join, hopefully, the two states that have already allowed citizens to vote in prisons, along with the District of Columbia. And so I think we're in good shape. We work very closely with community-based organizations. Chicago Vote has rocked it very much. And we have a roll call that will definitely get us over the hump in the House so that we could pass voting in prisons over to the Senate and then hopefully to the governor for signing. We will be the third state in the union to allow people in prison to vote if this passes.
Representative, does this mean that, like, murderers, convicted murderers, would be able to cast a ballot?
It means that anyone that's incarcerated in one of our prisons in the state will have the ability to cast their ballot for, it would be a mail-in ballot, so it would not be voting booths, but people will have the right to vote absentee or mail-in, I should say, from the home district that they reside. Because we know that a prison address is not a legal address according to the federal courts.
Yeah, and we've talked about prison gerrymandering in the past as well, and that's an issue that you've helped me kind of better understand. But Representative LaShawn Ford with us. For those listening right now that hear allowing for anybody in prison convicted of a crime being able to cast a ballot, they may have some real reservations about this. Because, once they get out of prison, their voting rights can be restored after they serve their time. How do you win over that crowd that's gonna be vehemently opposed to this idea?
I think that I don't know who would be opposed to this, because this is one way that we can, what you call, help reform people that are incarcerated. I mean, American citizens know that participating in a democracy is one way to show your loyalty to the country and to be responsible citizens. And being involved in a dialogue of democracy is always responsible. And it sort of connects people back to the mainstream. And that's what we want to do. We don't want to disconnect people from their families. We want to give them the ability to stay connected in our democracy. And that should go a long way when we talk about reforming individuals in our state prisons. Our goal is not to make people worse when they go into our prisons. It is to make them better and return them back as better citizens. And this is one step toward that.
State Representative LaShawn Ford here on the WMAY morning news feed. Another issue that's likely going to be contentious, depending on somebody's perspective. That's the ending of parental notification for a minor seeking an abortion. Why is this necessary?
As a Catholic, I have been pondering this for a very long time, and for a father of a 17-year-old daughter that I love so much, I do know that one part of being a legislator is listening, and listening to your constituents. And the constituents that have called and have written me have given compelling statements about how important it is to protect a woman, to protect a girl in the case of incest and violation of a girl's right to privacy. And so I've been moved by many calls and emails about how many people that have been raped by their father, raped by their uncle, raped by people in their families, and they have nowhere to turn when it comes to having medical treatment for incest. So, sometimes I think that it's important that we recognize that what's normal in our thought has to be, considered to be, we have to rethink what we feel is important to us and take into consideration our constituents and their beliefs and understanding about the issue.
Representative, something else that's been talked about, and I haven't seen necessarily any concrete proposal, but there's been some chatter about possibly changing the Healthcare Right of Conscience Act. Do you see that as something that's going to surface during veto session?
I think that's important to the governor to protect the states from many lawsuits. I think that he's negotiating, Governor J.B. Pritzker is negotiating with the legislature, and I think that he's polling it and he's saying exactly what's going to be best for the state. We know that the state could be at risk for lawsuits, and I think that it's the governor governor's responsibility to do everything he can to protect the people's health and protect the taxpayer dollars. I do hope that we protect the health and safety of people in the state of Illinois without taking away personal rights.
Would that be something you support to change the HCRCA?
You know, I'm looking at the Constitution, and I'm going to be talking to our legal counsel to see if this would be a violation of the Constitution. If it's a violation of the Constitution, then I probably would not be able to support it. But if it's something that the governor has a right, because he is the governor of the state, to bring to the legislature to ask for a change, then it's something that I could consider. Remember, Bishop, I think that we talk so much about my dislike and my uncomfort with the governor using his pen to make all these, what do you call them? He did so many, I forgot the name.
Executive orders, disaster proclamations, executive edicts.
All of those executive orders, you know, and we wanted him to engage the legislature so that these issues could be brought before the General Assembly for debate. And that's what's happening here. And I think that the voters across the state of Illinois have an obligation, just like the legislature, to be engaged in this. So I expect to hear from my constituents and the constituents across the state about how they feel about whether or not this change is necessary. So far, I think that I've heard majority of the individuals falling in line with the number of people that have been vaccinated in the state of Illinois. So majority of the people in the state of Illinois support the science of that vaccine. And so we shall see how the governor lays this out for the state to consider.
We're talking with State Representative LaShawn Ford from Chicago. He's on his way down to Springfield for fall veto session. And the HCRCA representative, I'm sure you're aware, has been brought up by teachers, by police, by others, just saying that they have a right to not comply with a medical policy that they have a conscientious objection to. But we're seeing this play out right now in Chicago with some Chicago police being put on unpaid leave. What's going on here, and what does this mean for the safety on the streets?
You know, it is something, you know, the first responders have been, you know, on the front line throughout this pandemic. And anytime you're in trouble, I'm in trouble, or my neighbor's in trouble, who do we call? We call law enforcement. And we need to do everything that we can to support them as well. And I would say that one way to deal with this issue is for the mayor and the FOP to sit down to figure out how we can protect the privacy of those officers. You know, we already know that being vaccinated does not prevent the spread of this virus. What prevents the spread of this virus is making sure that people are tested, and people should be allowed to test in private, and their information should not have to be made public. So we need to make sure that we find a way to protect people's privacy while keeping people safe. And I think we could do that by going back to what we started with in the state. And we had a very, very robust testing program, and we've sort of gotten away from that. I think that what law enforcement don't like is having to put their information in a system to tell whether or not they've been vaccinated or not. I think that we just test people every day or every other day to find out if they have the virus, because it's a false sense of security to think that just because a person has been vaccinated, that they will not spread the virus. We need to be smart about this, and the smartest approach is to try to convince people to take the shot. But until we can get them convinced that it's in their best interest, and we should make sure that we just force people to be tested. And I don't know if anybody could go against testing. But once again, I think that testing should be private. No one should have to put their information in a system to say that they've been tested or that they have had a shot. We know if you've been tested or if you've had the shot by you not being able to report to work. But to put that information public, I don't know if I can agree with that 100%, because what we learned is that just because you have the vaccine, it doesn't mean that you're not going to spread it. But what we do know is if you're tested and you're positive, then you don't come to work, and that will prevent the spread of COVID-19 better than anything.
State Representative LaShawn Ford, greatly appreciate you taking time with us this early in the morning. Be safe. We'll see you when you get down here to Springfield, all right?
Thank you, and I support your initiative to fight breast cancer. I look forward to the link.
Greatly appreciate that, yes. And I know that you're a survivor as well, and it's not just breast cancer. There's all kinds of cancers that we need to continue to combat, so appreciate that. Be safe, all right?
Thank you, Bishop. Bye-bye.
It is the WMAY Morning News Feed. Let's take a break, and